All right, folks. He's made his decision. Obviously, you can tell by the thumbnail or the background. Tony's decided to leave the Vols, leave Tennessee, leave the fans, leave everybody. This sucks. This really sucks. I was hoping, since it took so long for him to make, obviously, he really didn't. There was a big part of him didn't want to leave. But guess what? Doesn't matter. He's made his decision. It's man, this just makes no damn sense. It really doesn't make any sense at all. And I mean, it's not a Lane Kiffin move. I'm not going to call it that bad because it's not. You know, we did win a national championship with him, and but it definitely sucks. There's no doubt. I'm just so frustrated by this. I know y'all are too. There's going to be a lot of feelings about this from folks. Some people are going to be pissed off. Some people are going to wish him well. Some are going to hope he's successful at San Francisco. Some are going to hope he fails. It's going to be all over the place. Now, I like the guy. I think he's a great guy. It just, unfortunately, he's made a bad decision, and people do that. He got himself all pissed off because he thinks Danny White didn't have his back when it came to NIL, even though I think there was a lot of NIL for baseball. It probably wasn't as much as he wanted. And I think some of the money might have gone to the Lady Vols, which was, Kim Caldwell, which is a hire that he made. And that always matters a little bit. So maybe he didn't have as much money for the players that he had promised them. That's what I've been hearing. I don't know if that's accurate or not 100%. We may never – I don't know if we'll ever know. It's not like Danny's going to come tell you, and I highly doubt that Tony will either. He's going to live out of a suitcase 9 months out of the year. He's going to work. He's tripled his workload for no more money. It makes – financially, it's a stupid decision, a very dumb decision. But that's what he wanted to do. I think he's going to be in for a rude awakening when he goes to San Francisco and he's dealing with adults instead of kids. And he's trying to tell them what to do, and they're going to be like, I make 5 times more money than you do. I'll do what I do. And some of the guys will buy in and some won't. And that's part of it. But I guess San Francisco really wanted him. I think they paid the buyout and probably gave him the money that he needed. And like I said, after he pays his taxes and does all that, it's not going to be – he's going to make no more money at all. He's going to have triple – like I say, I just don't, understand tripling your workload. I don't get that. But maybe that's what he wants. Obviously, that's what he wants to do, although it took him 5 days to decide. 5 days. So it was not an easy decision. That's clear. I'm sure the players that came to Tennessee are not happy. I mean, if I had transferred from a college to play for Tony and he walked out on me, I'd probably tell him what I think about it. Knowing me, I'd probably tell him exactly what I think of it. And it wouldn't be pretty. But these guys, they may be like, hey, I get it. You want to go to the major leagues, fine. Maybe they'll be cool about it. Let's see what let me pull up X here for you and show you the news. He's Giants who paid the $3 million buyout to the Vols per ESPN. First person ever to go from college baseball to the pros. People are already not happy with the athletic director, obviously. There's people telling it's not going to work out. Jeez. People are mad. Everybody's talking about Josh Elander. I guess he'll probably end up being the interim, I would have to say. Now, you never know what somebody's going to choose to do. Maybe. Let's see, historic move. Let's see what everybody's talking about. Unprecedented. You're seeing that everywhere. Unprecedented move. I can tell you there's going to be a lot of folks in Knoxville unhappy. I can tell you my whole family's unhappy about it. I'm unhappy. Junebug, Chilmont, they're pissed off, and I know they're unhappy. My mother's certainly unhappy. Good grief. I didn't even watch college baseball until Tony showed up. And his teams are so much fun to watch. And he was such a character out there, you know, especially like 2022, I guess. I think it was 22 when they had that great team. That team was loaded. And they didn't win it all, but that's baseball. Baseball's funny about that. But they won 57. They won some stupid number of games, like 57 games. And they might have lost 9 or 10. And it was crazy. Let's see what y'all are saying in here. I'm sure there's going to be, yeah. It's not as bad a punch in the gut since it took 5 days. You know, usually a punch in the gut's quick. This was a 5-day. You could see the fist coming. I hope he enjoys working for a group of individuals that loved leaking this out, make him look bad in Knoxville and make his last few days difficult. Get used to that, Tony. They don't get, look, you're just a hire, dude. You're a hire in San Francisco. You got hired. You're an employee. Congratulations. That's what you're going to be there. And you better win. They've won 3 World Series in the last 15 years. So, and if you don't, I guess you'll end up at Arkansas. That's probably what everybody thinks is going to happen. That if he fails there, they'll do 3 or 4 years with him if he's not won a title or not in the playoffs every year. They'll send him out and say, well, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have brought a college guy in. And then he'll end up at Arkansas probably to replace the coach there that's getting up long in the tooth. He's from Arkansas, I think. So that'll probably be a good fit for him, which people aren't happy about that. Next coach, I'm assuming it'll be Josh Elander, who's the third base coach, recruiting coordinator. And we're getting kind of close, you know. That's the thing when people quit at these certain times. You know, that's why Bruce Pearl quit when he did. That way they were forced to hire Stephen Pearl because it was at a bad time to bring in a coach. And for some reason, they gave Stephen Pearl a 5-year deal. I'm assuming that Josh Elander will be an interim, and he'll have an opportunity to earn the job, which is what you should do with somebody that's not been a head coach. You should make them interim and see how they do. And if he does fine, then there you go. If he doesn't, then you go get a coach. Jeez. Yeah, then there'll be a lot of people that feel that way. Says I can't blame for wanting to be in the big show. You know, you play baseball. A lot of them want to go to the show. So everybody's got an opinion on that. Elander will be the UT probably, Bubbles. I think so. Yeah, there's a lot of people. I'm telling you, Danny White's going to take a ton of grief over this, rightly or wrongly. He's got to make it. Look, he's got to make 4 coaches happy. And number 1 is Josh Heupel. Number 2 is Rick Barnes. Number 3 is was either Tony or Kim. Okay. And I don't know if he made the right choice or not, but you know, there's going to be a lot. He probably thought he would stay. He probably thought, well, my God, it was my understanding it was a couple of $1 million that he was getting for the team. So, I mean, it's not like it wasn't significant. Why in the world they didn't just get those guys the money before July 31st if that was the deal? Although, look, it may be it may be a totally different reason we are not even aware of. You know, California, it's the bane of Tennessee athletics this year. Well, actually, I'm glad Nico left. I don't miss him at all. I'll just go ahead and tell you. I'll miss Tony. We'll all miss Tony, I think. Yeah, I'm a little salty. I'm a little salty about it. I still like the guy, though. This is not a Lane Kiffin thing. See, I don't care for Lane as a person. I still like Tony. But, yeah, I'm salty for sure. A little salty. I'm taking it a little better than I thought I would. I would have taken it a lot worse a few days ago. I was getting a little fed up with this, honestly. 5 days. Make a damn decision. You know, make a decision. Why does it take 5 days? You've been thinking about this for weeks. People struggle with that, and then they make everybody wait for them in baseball. But could we lose? You know, I don't know how that works, the transfer portal. I'd say it works the same in baseball as everything else. I'm sure the guys that he talked into going there could leave. I would think. I don't know why they couldn't within 30 days. And you may see some of that. You know, This is a huge hit to Tennessee baseball. I mean, that's just no way around it. And he knows it. I mean, Tony knows he's hurt Tennessee baseball by doing this. I mean, there's no question. I mean, they're already out there doing scrimmages and stuff like that and, practices. He knows. Says the whole city of Knoxville is salty. Heck yeah, absolutely they are. And a lot of people will be like this, like Sam says, good luck to Tony, hope he's successful, but this sucks. Yeah, and you can have both feelings. You can be salty and, wish him the best personally. I don't know how much success I'm going to wish him out there. I'd rather he go out there and fail in 1 year and come back. Yeah, I could see that. Let me see. Let's see. I guess he's not all. Yeah, I mean, look, he's the guy that was screaming it. You're either all ball, you're not, through thick and thin. I guess it got thick, and he took out. He left. Things didn't go the way he wanted. So supposedly Danny White and Tony don't get along. That's possible. I don't know Danny White. I don't know Tony all that well. I can say Tony's real fiery and emotional. Danny's not that way. If you've watched him, Danny's very surgical with his words and, very institutional type guy. He's all about, everybody doing what they're supposed to do and staying in line, coloring within the lines. And Tony's not that guy. Tony's a guy that's going to go outside the lines and kind of do what he wants. So that's one of the things that made him popular. People like people like that, especially when they're successful. Does LSU fans feel for you? I'd say there's a lot of LSU fans that are happy because they won't have to deal with him. He's been a pain for LSU the last 5 years. Here's a guy that says he'll be back. He might be, but it'll probably be at another team. If I had to guess. I will tell you, in my opinion, like I said, unless there's some personal reason he's doing this that we're not aware of, this is a terrible decision. He'll regret it, I think. But, I don't have all the information. I don't know everything there is to know about this. I've tried to learn as much as I can. But, sometimes people make decisions for reasons you're not even aware of, especially something this big. So, yeah, I don't know. He's a pretty smart dude, but I think he'll regret it. You just don't. Here's the thing about a situation like this. Bruce Pearl had this. Now, Bruce didn't want to leave, okay? This is very similar to Bruce Pearl. Bruce had to leave because he lied about a barbecue sandwich, and that was back when the NCAA went crazy over stuff like that. But Bruce was heartbroken to leave Knoxville. He was the mayor of Knoxville. He was what Tony, of course, won a natty, but Bruce was going to win a natty, and we knew it. And he had personality. He was bigger than life. He was that guy. And everybody in Knoxville loved him. Everybody started going to the basketball games. And I mean, it was an exciting time, big time. I mean, he was just that guy. And then he got caught over a barbecued sandwich. He invited one of the recruits to a get together. NCAA asked him about it. So no, he wasn't there. And they found a picture where he was there. Well, I mean, even if he wasn't supposed to be there, they just slapped him on the wrist. But, you can't. Back then, now you can lie to him all you want. Ask Connor Staggs, you can lie to the NCAA up one side and down the other. Allegedly. Had to put that in there. But they don't care now. They'll just fine you. But back then, they were powerful. They could do whatever the crap they wanted to you. They could knock you out, basically. So it's frustrating. I'm going to get another microphone. This microphone for live I don't like. This is the one I use for recordings, which I'm going to do another recording today on a video, but I need to get a good Rhodes one. This one's not good enough. Anyway, I didn't know that I was going to start doing a lot of live, but we've had so much news break. I mean, we're getting coaches fired left and right. Billy Napier, I'm going to do a video on firings and all of that later today. If I'm in the mood, which I'll get in the mood. I'll go ahead and tell you, look, I'm used to taking punches. I'm used to bad things happening and just rolling with those punches, and you got to move on. You got to it's the way that's life. So I'm not going to let it get me down. But I'm frustrated by this. I've almost mourned it a little bit. You know, like the last few days, I've kind of prepared myself that this is probably the way it's going to go. I had it down to 60-40, 60% he would leave. When I first heard it, I was about 70 or 80 because that's the type of thing that just happens quick and you're just like in shock. I'm way past shock now. I'd kind of prepared myself that this could happen. And I was getting a little bit ticked off at him anyway for taking so long and putting Vol Nation through this. You know, I was like, you know, this is not really cool to sit here and make everybody wait for 5 days while you make a freaking decision. That was a little bit selfish in my opinion. I didn't care for that. So it's not as difficult as it would have been 5 days ago. I would have been in shock and I'd have been really upset, but I've had time to think that through and go, this is not cool. You know, you're a grown man. You've had weeks to think about this, and then you got to put everybody through grief for 5 days, and then you had probably the Giants or his agent leak this out, which sucks, which means you're either working with a guy that doesn't give a damn, or you're working with an organization that doesn't give. And it's probably the organization that did it, the Giants, because this is nothing to them. They're like, they had 10 guys on the list. He wasn't even their number one guy. The other guy turned him down, so Tony was number 2, okay? He was number 2. So they would have just gone to number 3 and hired him, and nobody would have said a word. They're okay, whatever. They don't know who they don't even hardly know who Tony Vitello is out in San Francisco. They don't. They're worried about major league stuff. So, just the 5 days has actually helped me deal with it better than it would have been had it been early on. I don't think it's cool. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't drag this out. I mean, you drag it out for 5 days and make everybody go through this crap. I mean, that's a little bit narcissistic, honestly. It really is. And that's the thing you got to what people get like that when they think the whole world revolves around them. They'll think, well, they'll just wait, you know, until I finally get around to making a decision. And it hurts you. It does. People get tired. That's why I said, even if he'd have stayed, yeah, people would have been happy, but there would have been some grudge there. You know, you've seen it with Mark Stoops up in Kentucky. Remember when he was going to go to Texas A&M and they wound up having to give him more money, and there's some resentment over that. All right, there is resentment at Ole Miss to Lane Kiffin over his running an entire season over Auburn. I mean, Lane Kiffin wrecked his season in 2022, and any Ole Miss fan will tell you that. I was actually listening to an Ole Miss YouTuber yesterday about that, and he was like, oh, yeah. He said, Lane wrecked our 2022 season. We were 8-1. They were 8-1. They lost the next 4 ball games. Lost the last 3 of the year and then lost, I guess, the bowl game. Wound up being 8-5. They were 8-1, and that's because the entire team was distraught over this crap, this kind of stuff right here. So, you know, it would have tarnished his image a little bit, honestly, with a lot of people. I'd have been one of them. I'd have been like, well, I don't like him as much. I still would have liked him. I still would have watched and all that. But I'd always had in the back of my head, this guy will leave. You know, he's not all Vol through thick and thin. He's not, because he was ready to go. And that's why these coaches don't need these leaks getting out, because it damages the relationship between the fan and the coach. It damages it. And that's why here's the thing. You get these guys that are their agents, they don't give a crap about the fan bases. They could care less. All they want is this for their client and themselves. They want to get the best deal financially and the best percentage commission for themselves. And they live somewhere else. The Tennessee Vols don't mean squat to that guy, okay, to the agent. They could care less about any of that. They're money guys. It's just money. And they're just moving the pieces around. You know, his agent probably has 20 guys he's taking care of. And it's like, well, I got my guy an extra $1 million. And, you know, I'm sure he talked to Tony about the taxes out there. You know, you're really not getting any extra money when you go out there for 5 or whatever it is he's getting, when he pays $1 million in extra California state income tax. and then he has to have double the cost of living. I mean, I'm sure he had to explain to him, so you're really not getting any extra money here. Or maybe he didn't, because he gets a percentage of the commission. So he might have been like, well, hey, that's 10% more to me. That's an extra couple of $100,000 to Mr. Agent Man. So that was in the movie Airplane. Looks like I picked a bad day to quit on glue or whatever. Well, I'm not even going to say it on YouTube. They'll probably get dinged for it. But I think the first one looks like I picked the wrong day to quit smoking. Yeah. Look, see, the LSU people are so happy. They're so happy. LSU folks enjoy it. You know, you got tired of us dealing with us for the last 5-6 years, whooping up on you. Let's see. Yeah, people are going to Danny's going to take some grief over this. You can count on that. Danny Dollars. He's gonna have a bad couple of weeks here, I'd say. Brent Venables. Yeah, I saw, who was that that talked about that? That was Lane Kiffin. Speaking of Lane is always hanging around somewhere all the time. But yeah, he said he thought Oklahoma might have had their signs. Now, here's the thing. If they had their signs, that's more on Ole Miss. That really is. Because if you think about it, no, that wasn't that game, was it? No, that was who was it? Oklahoma. Hang on, I can't remember who was it. Oklahoma was playing. Anyway, Lane's the one that pointed it out, that he thought they'd stole the signs. Oklahoma against who they played last week. I'm drawing a blank for some reason. I do that occasionally on live. But anyway, that's on that team, because you're in ear now. Okay, you're in helmet. So if somebody got your signs, then unless they've got some radio, look, they could have done that the first year, because you remember there was that big story that came out and said, this is the easiest thing to hack in the world. So they put extra precaution in there and extra security so that wouldn't happen. Okay. So if that happened, if Lane's correct about that, that's more on the other team than Oklahoma. That was just probably noticing some tendencies, and the safety probably noticed these tendencies of how they were setting up and went, aha. Or maybe there was a verbal thing where the quarterback was audibleizing, and it's like, oh, I picked up on what he said, and they had done that earlier, a quarter before, and then the safety was crashing down on the slants. And he could have had a pick six, by the way. He dropped a pick six that was right in his hands. And that's it, Rick Lee. I have to watch what I put up here, though. Texas, A&M. Was it? No, it wasn't A&M. It was, was it South Carolina? I can't remember, man. I'm telling you, there's just so much going on. I can't keep up with it all without looking at it. Anyway, nobody, it's funny. I never dreamed that I'd be this upset about a college baseball coach leaving. I mean, when I was at UT in the 80s, the baseball team lived on the same floor that I did. We had the golf team and the baseball team, and might have been the tennis team or something. Anyway, we lived on the third floor at Gibbs. And the baseball team, they didn't look like they do now. Like, these guys look like football players today. But back in 1986, 87, 88, when I was there, they just looked like regular dudes. Like the baseball players that were in high school that I remembered. And this is I just can't believe it. I mean, you could just go over with your student ticket or whatever and just watch a baseball game if you wanted to. And there might have been a couple of hundred people there watching. Usually it was the girlfriends or family, or there was some avid baseball fans that'd be there. But it wasn't busy. It wasn't a big deal. Now, you go over that stadium now, and I mean, it's, especially since Tony's been there, it's been packed. I mean, packed, thousands of people. tickets have gotten expensive. So they used to be cheap. When my brother first bought tickets, when Tony got there and it started getting exciting, they were cheap as could be. It was like $600 for the whole year. You know, you got like 30 pairs of tickets for like $600. It was very inexpensive. It might have been $10 a piece for the tickets for season. Now they're like $6,000 or something. I mean, they're like expensive. They've gotten real expensive. And of course, they're spending $100 million on the stadium that Tony built, so to speak. He's not even going to get to see it finished. So when people say, well, he didn't give him the money that he needed, well, they're spending $100 million on the stadium, making it state of the art. They spent $3 million on him a year, 3.1, I think it was, making him the highest paid coach in the country. So it's not like he was being, cheated. But the NIL thing all came at once. And I'm sure you had to know there was going to be some hurt feelings somewhere in there. I'm sure there's teams, I'm sure Josh and Rick Barnes are like, I wish I had more money. But I think he had maybe promised some players some money and wasn't able to get it to them because the NIL expired past July 31st. Or maybe he had moved some money over to women's basketball for Kim Caldwell. That's certainly possible, and that might have ticked him off. That I could see that that'd make me mad. If I had promised somebody some money and then I had to not be able to deliver, I'd be mad. And that certainly could have played a role. But we don't know that for sure. I'd heard Tony Basilio talking about he believes that might have played a role. I'm sure Tony, I actually watched a little bit of Tony. He's hurt. He's upset because he and they were paisans, I think is what you call it. They were a good friends, so to speak, and talked to each other all the time and texted and all that kind of stuff. And of course, probably nobody's talked more about baseball than Basilio has. And Tony Vitello is a big part of that. So I know he's probably a little brokenhearted over this, I'm sure. But, crap, that's just part of it. So he'll move on and he'll be all right, just like I will. It just sucks. Well, Tony ought to be in tears. I mean, who the crap leaves the land of milk and honey where you're working 56 games and no college baseball coach has been treated better than Tony Vitello. Gave the man a parade. I mean, I can't even believe it. I cannot believe how popular baseball got under him. And he received a ton of love during that time, a ton. Not even the South Carolina baseball coach that won 2 natties received anywhere near the love that Tony got. So to leave that and destroy that magic, you'll never get that magic again, Tony, ever. You're walking away from a magical situation just like Bruce Pearl was forced to do, and Bruce knew it. Bruce was torn asunder over it. I'm telling you, I'm sure he had a lot of bad moments over that. And Lane Kiffin spent 10 years regretting it, 10 years regretting leaving Tennessee. He was still trying to get the Tennessee job back when we hired Jeremy Pruitt. He would have taken it in a second, in a millisecond, but he had burned that bridge. Now, as far as Tony is concerned, I don't know if he'd ever be back or if it'd ever make any sense, but the magic will never be like it's been. And you've torn the magic apart, dude. And you should cry. You should be crying because, yeah, it's sad to leave for you, but you just don't realize what you've done. You really don't. And they never do till later because you're so you can get too close to a situation and you're so in this bubble of not understanding what you've done. You don't have the wisdom of somebody that's older. I've learned that. Would you hit 55, 60 years old and you look back and say, God, I had the perfect situation over there. Why not? And it's just you're young, you do stupid crap. This is a bad decision. But, he'll be fine. He'll always have money. He'll always be able to coach and do all that. But he'll never have a magical situation like this ever again. You just won't. Because it's so unique. Even if he goes to another college and has success there, which, he may very well do if it doesn't work at San Francisco, He'll never have the magic he has in Knoxville because he'll have gone, well, Arkansas is used to winning some national titles. We had never won one. So he was the grand poobah. He was the guy. He was the king. And now the crown is gone, and there's no crown out there in San Francisco for you, buddy. You're not going to be the king out there. You're going to find out real quick. Probably within 6 months when he's sitting in that dugout for the 90th game with 70 more to go. And he's sitting there filling out that line card and all the promises the Giants made to him. Oh, we're going to let you pick the players. And, oh, sure we will. You'll be heavily here's the terms they use. You'll be heavily involved. Heavily involved. That doesn't mean you get to make the decisions, though. You get to be in the room. And we'll talk about it. And then we'll explain to you why we're going to go with these guys. And you'll throw a fit and be able to get a few of the guys you want, but you're not going to be able to pick them like you can in college. And when you want more money from the owner, well, I got to keep up with the Dodgers. I got to keep up with the Dodgers. How can I do that when they got twice the talent? And that billionaire or whoever owns the thing is going to go, well, this is how much I have allotted, and this is what I'm going to do. But the Dodgers are spending twice as much. Well, good for the Dodgers. You're the San Francisco Giants manager. This is the budget you have. And he's going to tap him on the head and say, no, get on back in that dugout and manage those players like I told you to do. And then when he goes to those guys, and the great thing about dealing with young people like he's doing in college, they're like clay. All right, you can mold them and turn them into a better player. These guys in the major leagues they're their own business model, okay? These guys that are in the major leagues, unless they just got there, most of them are 27, 28, 29 years old. They're making huge money. I've told you what they make out there. The highest paid guy, Matt Chapman's making $26 million. Then 25, then 23, then 21, etc. So he'll be one of the lowest paid guys in the dugout. There'll be a few utility players that make less than him, but he'll be bottom half for sure. Because I think he's going to make like $5 million or something like that. Maybe it's $6 million. We'll see. We may never find out exactly how much it is, but my understanding it's like 5 or 6. But they're not going to listen to him. They're not. They're not going to change their game based on what he says when what they've done's gotten them to $25 million or 23 or 21. I'm not going to let this guy that makes $5 million tell me, make these changes, do this, do that. I'm going to go, dude, I got here doing it this way. And I got look at my mansion. Okay. Look at everything I got. And I got a short period of time to be in the major leagues. I'm going to get my Benjamins. And I'm going to get all my money, and you're not going to come in here and screw with that. You can forget it. Whereas the young guys in college, which I was one of, they're sponges. They're absorbing all that information. They're making changes. They're listening to Tony V, the national champion coach. They're going to listen to him. He's going to get out here with these adults. They're not going to. And if I was in there, look, I can tell you right now, if I had made it to that level and had 25 million coming in, and I know I had 3 or 4 years left, I'm 28, 29 years old. I know when I hit 33, I'm done. I'm not going to let some guy come in here that's all pumped up and tell, I need you to do this and I need you to do that. And it's like, dude, I'm out of here in 4 years. I'm going to make my $100 million and I'm going to keep doing what I did to get to that level. Okay? So don't be coming in here messing with me, telling me what I got to do and what I don't have to. Just don't do it, because I'll buy and sell you. That's how they're going to think. That's especially when it's worked out so good for them. I mean, it's just rude awakening, very rude awakening. It's all because I want to be the first guy in the major leagues and all that, which, yeah, exactly. You're a manager. You're not a coach. You're a manager. You're to manage that group of individuals that the owner and the GM picked out for you. You'll have a say in some of it. You'll be heavily involved in the decisions, which I'm sure is what they told them. I guarantee you they didn't say, oh, you'll make the decisions on who we pick. No, you'll be heavily involved, because that's exactly the way you tell somebody that you want. You tell them that and make sure they're in the room and listen to their opinion and then make the decision you want to make. GMs, I'm telling you, I don't think he's gotten very good advice. Yeah, I'm salty. I'll agree. I'm salty. Yeah, he's out. I know. He was the guy that was screaming, "You're either all vol, you're not, through thick and thin, Tony." That's what that kind of makes me salty too. Yeah, it's not. Some of them are going to make 5 times what he makes, much less 2 or 3 times. Oh man. Of course, that's why you don't bring in a college guy into the major leagues, because the personalities that you're going to be dealing with are so different than college. It's night and day. It really is. And a rah-rah guy is not really what you want in the major leagues, honestly. What you want is a really good manager of people, somebody that can deal with the different personalities. You're going to have, out of 25, 30 guys in the major leagues, most of them are big-time narcissists, okay? They're into themselves in a major way, and it's one of the reasons they got where they got. And, when you get them young, like in college, they're not there yet. They're still just really kind of figuring things out, trying to get there. These are guys that are super successful, and the Giants got a bunch of them. I mean, he's got to have plenty of talent to work with, but that talent is not going to be open to a whole lot of change or rah-rah stuff. He might work. I've watched too much Major League Baseball. I think I have, and dealt with too many people. And it's just, when you get older, you start realizing this stuff. It's like people who are who they are. They are who they are. And you can manipulate them a little bit, but once they hit 25 years old, they're who they are. They can change some. They can alter some. But their formative years, and that's when I think that has to do with the what do they call that? The front part of your brain. I can't think of the name of it. But it's fully developed at 25. It's the can't think. See, I'm not using enough of it. But yeah, so most of the guys in the major leagues are going to be 25 or older. You might get a 22 or 23-year-old phenom in there, but they are who they're going to be. You're not going to change them. So he gets these guys that are 17, 18, 19, 20. Man, like I said, he can have a huge impact on them. Frontal lobe, prefrontal cortex. I knew somebody'd help me with that. That's great. That's the great thing about these comments whenever I can't remember something, especially when I go live. See, I'm usually pretty prepared, but when I go live, the problem is I go on detours. I don't even know I'm going there. I have no idea. I wind up in this detour and there's a dead end and I got to circle back. That's a famous term they like to use in politics all the time, which I never discuss on this channel. Circle back. I'm going to circle back, which means I don't have an answer for you. I'll get back to you if I feel like it. Oh, crap. Tony, and they'll say, Tony who? Some people, like I said, there are going to be some folks upset about this, and I'm very torn. I don't don't get it twisted. This is not a Lane, even though I've compared it to Lane Kiffin. Lane's a different animal, okay? Tony, I think much, much more highly of Tony than I do Lane Kiffin. This was a tough decision for him. He didn't do it at the worst possible time. He didn't do it after the first year and leave Tennessee in a lurch the day before National Signing Day and then try to take the whole coaching staff with him and all the recruits and all that crap that he pulled. I mean, what he did was just, it was so bad, other teams in the SEC wouldn't touch him for years because they thought it was so disloyal and so shitty, okay? It wasn't just Tennessee. Believe me, I heard from so many fan bases from other teams that were like, that guy sucks. What he did to you is just beyond wrong. You don't, especially in the SEC, you just don't do that crap. That's why he was untouchable for years. And it wasn't until Nick Saban put him under his wing and said, this guy can be okay. I mean, that's what got him to where other teams would even look at him. And then he had to go to Southern Florida or wherever it was for 2 or 3 years. And then finally Ole Miss hired him. And now here they go again. But anyway, we're going to talk about firings later today. I'll put a video out about it. But anyway, I had to come out here and talk about this. And I've talked longer than I thought I would. I thought I might just come out here for 5 minutes, but no, it's a little therapeutic to talk about this stuff, I guess. Dang. I know my brothers aren't happy. So anyway, I'm going to end this stream, folks. I appreciate you coming on and listening to me rant a little bit. I tried not to rant too much because I don't want to be mean to Tony, but I'm not happy with his decision. I think it was a huge mistake, and I think he's going to regret it. I really do. But Tennessee's going to be all right. Like I said, we'll probably hire this Josh Elander, the third base coach, recruiting coordinator and all that, most likely. But, you know, who knows? Maybe Danny Dollars will go another route. But anyway, we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay. Sorry I had to give you this bad news. I'm not happy about it either. Ending stream.